We're going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe if you are out there on YouTube. And also rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. And today we are going to continue our mock draft madness, we might call it, just because we just did the last time that we did dueling mock drafts. We had 2 mock drafts going against each other. I won't spoil it for you on who ended up winning that one, but that was a great show. So I was thinking, just in the spirit of in March Madness, right? It's March Madness season. So why not just go through even more mock drafts and just kind of have our mini mock draft madness, March Madness, whatever we want to call it, where today we'll go through 2 new mock drafts, and then later on we'll do 3 consecutive days of these, and then at the end of it, we'll find out which one is our favorite mock draft that we've done. So make sure to stay tuned, make sure to hit the notification bell, because we'll go live with this to kind of ask y'all what you think and what you feel about the different mock drafts that we're going to be out there. And also, for those out there on YouTube, you can see the green backgrounds. It pained me to make this background green just because it reminds me a little bit of the Packers, but hey, it's St. Patty's Day indeed. Broski's out there. What is good? Taco Man out there. How are we doing? So let's break this down and let's just get started with some news, and then we can move on in to the mock drafts. What's going on, Hype Rider? So let's get into the first big news, some re-signing. We see the Bears re-sign Travis Homer today, a move that I actually didn't expect them to actually make. So Travis Homer is now their running back 3. So 1 year, $2 million deal does not mean it just kind of points to, hey, they can still draft a running back, still bring someone in, because Ian Wheeler, even though he was an absolute beast when it came down to the preseason, still is recovering from an ACL tear. So hopefully he can get back, hopefully be on the practice squad and at least look halfway decent. So that's what I'm hoping for, at least. So let's get into, though, like at least with Travis Homer, you at least have 3 running backs. You can still draft someone and still probably feel pretty good about this room. And then next, Bears then re-signed Scott Daly. This is already some news, but it's made official, so don't know who that is. That's the long snapper, the new long snapper for the Chicago Bears. He is now no more Patrick Scales. It's now going to be Scott Daly coming out now. But the biggest news that was happening is that the Bears brought in 2 wide receivers into their into Hallis Hall to just see, like, hey, for potential signings. Number 1, Rondale Moore. What do we think about Rondale Moore? Because to me, I like the at least idea of bringing him in. Rondale Moore is, I think a lot of people remember him because of fantasy football with the Arizona Cardinals, but he's usually injured. So if you're signing him and then, hey, if he's a 6 wide receiver, someone that can be a playmaker, awesome. If you have to rely on him, not so awesome, at least, because of the injuries, because of the injury history. That's just where Rondale Moore, to me, I like the idea. But then there's another receiver, Mecole Hardman, where it just kind of shows more and more and more what the Bears are trying to do. They want speed at the receiver position, more fast, quick, can do all sorts of crazy stuff. And then also Mecole Hardman, fast wide receiver. They want speed at the receiver position. That's what the Lions had at the receiver position. So it feels like that's just a consistent piece that we just continue to see. Now with any of these, if I had to suggest one, I'd rather have Rondale Moore, because it also kind of shows that then they'd at least be semi-healthy. But because with Hardman, I just feel like he's just very inconsistent with a lot of it. So I'd rather have someone that when he's on the field is better than what you would get out of Hardman. But yet again, like we were saying, they're probably just going to be trying to fill out this wide receiver room a little bit more, because when we look at it, you're talking about Zacchaeus as that 3rd wide receiver, but then behind him, it's really just Tyler Scott. No one else that you'd expect to actually be on that roster. So yeah, sign some of these players, just start feeling this out. So let's see who's all out there. I'm seeing Philip, what's good, my friend? Yeah, lots and lots of people out there so far getting ready for the mock draft. So I'm excited for this one because everyone on YouTube has already seen it, actually, or seen who at least the first mock draft is about. So, also, I guess too, the podcast listeners probably saw this in the little description. So, just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, if this is your first time going into a dueling mock draft, with these mock drafts, the rules, I do not trade back with any of these because in the nature of a mock draft, you just want to see what can we get at these actual positions. But then also too, with this is not me, Brad, choosing these or specifically saying I would do this, I would do that. We're running through different scenarios to say, like we did last time, the Bears drafted Tyler Warren. What could they do after that? And who might be some of the people that we get? Also, my own little mini rule that I did, I can't draft the same player twice just because we like to learn about more players. And also, I think it kind of makes it a little bit more fun. So let's get into this because I know there's going to be some big feelings about this. So let's start with mock draft number 1, where the first pick at the number 10 spot that the Bears select in the first mock draft is Ashton Jeanty, running back, Boise State. So, chat, let me hear it. What do y'all think about this? As I feel this is just going to be A's or D's. Maybe I should have put an F just so that we can have the two sides of this. So I'm excited. I already see Broski out there not happy about it. Yeah, I really want to see what people are saying out there. How do we feel about this? I'm actually surprised to see a C out there right now. So what I'll tell you about Ashton Jeanty, Boise State, 5'8", 215. I think he officially was 211. But really, this is just an incredible yards after contact back. We have not seen somebody have this crazy of an elusive rating, which is 215. He's super high up there with Bijan Robinson. But I've said this about him in the past. He's not to the caliber of a Bijan Robinson or a Saquon Barkley of who they were coming out. Now, a big reason why I don't feel that, because people might be saying, well, why not? He had 2,595 rushing yards, which is absolutely insane. So on the ground, he's phenomenal. And how he wins is by he has this true low center of gravity. If you want to know what contact balance, low center of gravity looks like, simply watch Ashton Jeanty. When he's got the ball in his hands, he just bounces off of people. He's just going to smack you in the face. He's going to try and just break the tackle off of you. And he just stays upright. Like, that is the thing that he just consistently does time in and time out. Now, also too, I actually put receiving as one of his negatives because he only had 23 receptions last year. Looking deeper at it, the year before that, he actually was catching the ball a little bit more. And I think that kind of gets a little overlooked in his game. So I removed that as one of his weaknesses. But really, his height, him being only 5'8", and winning with power is something that does kind of scare me. And the reason why I don't think he's up to Bijan or Saquon's level, first off, level of competition. But secondly, the biggest thing is they made you miss. And yes, Jeanty has highlights of him making people miss, but really it's that power, that power game is how he makes people miss. He's going to be giving you a little stiff arm, but he's going to be staying upright. And it's just, he's very, 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 very hard to tackle. So it's great in the Mountain West, but what about the NFL when people are better at tackling? I'm not here to tell you that he's going to be an absolute bust, an absolute terrible. But what I am here to tell you is that when you compare him to the other elite, those truly great running backs that have come out, Bijan was shiftier. Saquon was shiftier. Also, Bijan and Saquon were, I felt, more complete backs. They were taller, which also helps as well. Not going to discriminate against height, but hey, this is the draft, so we get a little pass with this. But really, truly, Ashton Jeanty, to me, I am someone who is on board with the running backs don't matter, right? Running backs don't matter. I don't mind this as a pick. And I really don't, because I think that he is if you look at what you want out of a running back, I feel what you want out of a running back is someone that can actually make a difference, right? Because so many of these running backs that I'm seeing, I go, he could be a starter. He could be a starter. He could be a starter. But it's who can be an actual difference maker. And if you want to take a chance on someone that is right next to Barry Sanders in most rushing yards, I don't mind that, right? And also, I think the reason why I feel crazy for saying this, like, I don't mind us taking a running back at 10. I think the reason why I feel this way too is because of just the caliber of player, but also because I'm not necessarily in love with one particular player that we can get at number 10. As we go through this, you'll just hear me kind of say, like, there's so many options that we have at that number 10 spot. And that's why I'm not necessarily sold on one particular player. I'm very, very indifferent right now. The more that I watch, the more that I scout. Actually, I basically scouted everybody that we could draft. And I think that's why I'm just kind of like, I'm very indifferent. It's very how the board falls is going to change who I want the Bears to actually select, because I feel like there's a lot of people that they could potentially get. So that's my little spiel on Ashton Jeanty. Let's see what people are saying. We're seeing Bears Bones saying no to Jeanty. What's good, my friend? And we got Broski. We got Illinois Jones. What's good? Saying he wants Tyler Warren. And so, yeah, I know that there was a lot of people that really like that. And Broski saying compared Jeanty to Adrian Peterson, the Bears drafted in 2002. I didn't see that second part, so you got me there out of Georgia Southern. And then let's see. Yeah, so the thing, right? This is the best, to me, easily the best running back in the class. And that's why in this one, this is the Ashton Jeanty draft. So let's see what y'all are thinking. And I was incorrect. I thought it was going to be nothing but A's and D's out there. We have 42% of y'all saying B, and 25% saying A, 8% saying C, and 25% saying D. So I kind of expected, at least it's 25-25 for the big part, but yeah, B for a lot of it. And I think I'm kind of right there with you with like the B, where I'm just kind of like, it's good. But Illinois Jones saying trade, I think that would be one of the most interesting piece, because what could you get out of someone to say like, hey, you guys want this guy? Do you guys want this running back? Like, what could you get for a running back? Because heck, trading back for someone to come get a running back, that'd be pretty bold. That'd be pretty darn bold. So let's see what else that we have. So Ashton Jeanty with the first pick in this first mock that we have out there. So now let's go out to the second pick in the draft. So we go over to the second pick or the first pick in the second round with the Bears drafting Nick Scorton, defensive end out of Texas A&M, junior, 6'4", 285. I think he measured in a little bit lighter at the combine. But this is someone who is the number 34 consensus player on the big board. Now, Nick Scorton, this was someone that was supposed to be like a top 10 pick last season. And he didn't have a terrible season this year. He was charted with 4 sacks, 28 QB hurries, and 4 quarterback hits. He's a big, sizable defensive end who is starting to slide down draft boards. Now, this isn't like a Mike Green or James Pierce Jr. type of situation where both of those have some character concerns. It's just people didn't necessarily love that he kind of didn't progress last season. PFF graded him at 80.1 overall. He had a 17% pass rush win rate and a 7.3% run stop rate, 80.6 pass rush grade, and a 74.4 run grade. And truthfully, I would love this because even though that I watch him and I still kind of have him as a kind of an early first type of a grade, but if he drops to the Bears in the early second, I think that this is a home run. I love this because of the type of player he at least brings to the Bears. Larger, he's not necessarily super tall or anything like that, but he's still an adequate height and he's very, very large. And he also plays on the opposite side as a Montez Sweat. So he gives you that large defensive end frame. Also too, I thought that like he looked a lot skinnier, or he played skinnier than what he actually weighed in at. Just can kind of slide through some blockers, really good with his hands. But there's 2 pieces that I think just really kind of hold him back. One, I don't see a really great first step from him. I don't see like that true, like the true top dogs have an elite first step. I don't see that with him. But then also too, there's a lot of plays where he just gets completely out of the play. And and I think that's the hard part is he's either completely out of it, right? Even if he doesn't truly win, like he will actually flat out lose. Like there's no middle ground with his tape. He either wins or he loses. And I think that just overall, even though he's got these pass rush moves, sometimes it's like when you use it and just the overall consistency to his game, I want to see a little bit more that just general more consistency out of his game. And I think that's why you're going to start to see him kind of slip out of that first round because of how many defensive ends are out there. And I think his name's just going to be lost in the shuffle. So let's see what y'all have to say. 38% saying B, 25 saying A, 25 saying C, and 12% saying D. Broski saying B for Scorton. And then Illinois saying, yeah, give him Landon Jackson all day for that. There's Bone saying he's only 20 years old, upside. So yeah, overall D for Scorton. But then let's see, Scorton, not the guy I would have picked. Yeah, so let's see what out there. So Nick Scorton, like I said, just good, solid, should have been a first rounder, sliding down a lot of grades, but larger scale overall. So I'm just going to end this poll, 31% A, 38% B. So it seems like y'all halfway decently like that one. So let's go over to the second round pick that we have. And right now the Bears have a running back, have a defensive end. And now with the second round pick, the Bears select Ariante Ursary. This was someone we talked about a little bit last time. He kind of came up and I was like, I had to add him. I had to add him out there. 6'6", 330, redshirt senior out of Minnesota. This is a left tackle that is projected to go in the second round. He's the consensus 40th player overall and really should be there for the Chicago Bears unless there is an absolute run on tackles. This guy, when you look at his PFF grade, 77.5, which is good for 56, so nothing amazing. But then his overall grades, 73.6 run grade, 77.3 pass grade, only allowed 1 sack and 1 hit last season and 10 hurries. The thing that I like about this pick, if the Bears were to go with the tackle in the second, I think that Ursary and Connerly out of Oregon, these are two players that I feel have they're tackles, but they can also block pretty darn well. Ursary's got this crazy girth, this very, very good size to you. But even then, the thing that I just noticed on his tape was he still needs to get a little bit more polished. A lot of people, because he's this big guy, he kind of takes a little bit to move. He doesn't have this juice, this little wiggle in his step. Like watching him at the combine, some drills, I was watching it with Johnny PayPal, and him and I were watching this and we're going, dang, that guy's supposed to go in the second. He's quick. And then other drills were like, okay, now I see it. Like some spots, he just has zero pop to his game. Others, he does. And because of that, a lot of experienced rushers will try and leverage that against him because they know, like basically a lot of times they'll try to hit him with an inside move. They'll try to go on the outside, hit him with an inside move, and he's toast. So really, it's that awareness and just kind of building up just the overall quickness to his game, because trying to get to spots like that, that's when he was just getting beat a little bit. So this gives you good depth at that tackle position, someone that you can get in the second round, and then you don't have to necessarily rely on Karan Amagaji as coming back and being that true swing tackle. Now you got two tackles kind of waiting in the wings, and then whatever happens with Braxton Jones happens with Braxton Jones. So let's see what y'all are saying. Muck, not the biggest Ursary fan. And then Broski saying taking Ursary there isn't taking the best available there for sure. And also Muck saying Ursary is a right tackle or guard in his opinion. So overall, people are saying 33% A, 25% B, 25% C, and 17% D. So we got that out there. Scooter saying Ursary looked good at the Senior Bowl. That's right. He did turn some heads out there. And Broski, thank you, my friend, saying please smash the like button and subscribe. I do appreciate that out there for sure. Helps the channel tremendously. So you guys were very, very split on that right down the line. I like to see that though. Like to see that. And like I said, I love hearing y'all's opinions on this too, just to see what us as fans, what players do we like? What players don't we like with this as well? So let's go with the third round pick. So the last one of this first mock draft, just to kind of round this out. Let me just load this pick up because right now we have a running back. We have a defensive end. We have a tackle. So with the next pick, with the third round pick, the Chicago Bears select Harold Fannin Jr. I'm really curious to see what people think about Harold Fannin Jr. This is the tight end out of Bowling Green, 117 receptions, 1,555 yards, 10 touchdowns, 3.77 yards per route run. So, what do y'all think about that? Junior, 6'4", 230. I think he actually measured in at 6'3". I need to throw the combine numbers in there for sure. PFF's highest graded tight end coming out of the draft at 95.9 PFF grade because this guy was just an absolute beast. This guy just was the entire offense for Bowling Green. He lined up in line. He lined up in the slot. About 50-50 split, both in line and out there inside of the slot. And the thing that I just really like about him is you're going to immediately get upside with him being a route runner and just getting open. This is something that he just continued to excel at and does kind of remind me a little bit of Jonnu Smith, where there's a little bit of like flat-footedness with the way that he runs a little bit, where I don't necessarily love that, but still good athlete, tested very well at the combine. And really, I think that he's a better blocker than what a lot of people give him credit for, because I think people just assume since he was a route runner at Bowling Green that, hey, he doesn't know how to block, but he is a willing run blocker. And with similar to like most tight ends that are coming out this year, especially, there's not a lot of great run blockers. And especially at the tight end position, taking a gigantic leap and then going against the NFL, there's a lot to be learned out there. So third round pick, going with Harold Fannin Jr. Now, the only other thing too that I want to just call out as well, just coming from Bowling Green, he's got that whole lower level of competition that he was able to chew up on, has a little bit of an upright stance as he's running too. So what are we feeling out there? I see 40% A, 50% B, 10% C. Trapakeepa, bear down indeed, my friend. So let's see. Broski's saying Bowling Green gave Penn State a game this past season at Happy Valley. And, Bowling Green had a nice QB and Hannon had, 11 receptions, 137 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, I'm curious to see where he goes because his profile checks out. The level of production that he had against bad competition, it's impressive. And then also, too, he also athletically is testing well. And as someone who's in the third, pretty darn well. And also, Broski, I see your comment doing a draft, having you do a draft. I was actually very tempted to do like just different fan drafts and like show supporters, just be like, all right, send in your drafts and we could do something like that. So maybe we do. Maybe I'll have people like send it in and then we can judge. We'll judge everyone's drafts. That could be fun. I actually kind of like that idea. So I'll see what we do. But let's see what we got out there. Illinois Jones saying Tyler Warren is a win. Like we said, seems like this was just a B draft across the board for most of us. Seems like everybody kind of felt that way. Just B's across the board as the main piece. So that is the first mock draft. Let's get into our second mock draft where I'm going to change this up a little bit more. We have not yet gone defensive line first. And so we've gone tight end first one time. We went offensive tackle first. We went running back first. And now we have to go with probably one of the Bears' biggest needs, defensive end. Even though that we have two starters, I feel like we feel good about the entire starting situation. Let's get into what should we do if the Bears go with defensive end. Now, there's a lot of defensive ends we can choose from. This one, I was like, as the first defensive end, this guy's starting to drop a little bit. And it helped me because I was able to just watch some Texas A&M tape, hint, as to who we're going to be going with. Because this person, since the combine, he was like, there's no chance that the Bears are going to be getting him. But now he's starting to slide down. And if you got the hints, I'm talking about at the number 10 pick in the second mock draft, Bears go with Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M defensive end, junior, 6'6", 290 pounds, absolute unit of a guy that put up numbers comparable to Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, athletically. But when you look at his actual statistics, 1.5 sacks last season, but 33 hurries and 4 quarterback hits, 31 tackles, and posted a 12.4% pass rush win rate, which was worse than his teammate Nick Scorton, and a 5.5% run stop rate, which was worse than Nick Scorton again. And if you look at the PFF grades, 93rd consensusly from PFF for the defensive end rankings, 67.2 pass rush grade, and an 88.2 run defense grade. So let's see what y'all have to say. And I'm seeing some horrible out there. This is the thing this is why I love doing these, because I love just seeing what we have out there. Maybe this is the true A's and D's out there. So I'm getting some no, we're getting some barfs in the chat. We're getting horribles. We're getting some easy trade up. I like what Illinois Jones said, trade up for Abdul Carter. And then we got Bears Junkie. What's good, my friend? Saying, I love Shamar Stewart. His production, hard to argue. All the tools. Dennis Allen guy. That's what Scooter's saying. Here's the thing. I agree with what Scooter said because of him. He's definitely a Dennis Allen guy, right? And for those that watch the show, probably know what my feeling of Shamar Stewart is. I am not a traits guy when it comes to defensive ends, especially this high, right? That is the thing that, for me, I'm not necessarily high on Shamar Stewart just because of the lack of production. That is something to me that is like on my big boards, on my grades, I grade your hand usage. I grade your production a lot higher is on the defensive line than necessarily like athletic traits. But like I've said, Dennis Allen has an opposite opinion than I do on defensive ends. So with this, and I'll break him down a little bit too. With Shamar Stewart, when you put on the tape, right, it's clear. You don't have to have the combine to see just the level of athlete he is. When he has open space in front of him, it takes a split second for him to get there. And when someone was running to the outside, you saw just the speed that he's able to run with and just get people. There was an interception return, and you just see just how freaking fast he is that he can kind of chase down and run down different blockers. And at his size, it's absolutely crazy. Now, the thing with him, and I got Scorton a little bit mixed up with Stewart, but they're Scorton's a better usage of his hands. That's why I like Scorton a lot more. But the thing with Stewart is I have seen him use his hands sometimes. It just doesn't seem like he knows when to use the proper hand fighting. Like it seems like he'll throw a move out there and it just doesn't work. And that's why you don't see a lot of that production with him. I think he needs a phenomenal coach in order to get the most out of him. But I'll say this, right? If you compare him to the Georgia defensive ends or some of the Georgia defensive ends that are coming out like a Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, he has the burst that I think people think that like a Michael Williams has. So Shamar Stewart is the best athlete at the defensive end position in this draft. Do I think Dennis Allen will love that? Yes. But I'll say this time and time again. Coaches who think that they can coach something that they don't see on tape, right? When it's like the Family Guy mystery box, right? What could this guy be? He could be a pass rusher. He could do so many other things. We just have to train him, right? We just have to teach him this stuff. That's what always gets me a little bit nervous. It's exciting, but it's nervous because a lot of times it just does not pan out. And I want to make a big distinction here too, because like Chop Robinson didn't necessarily have the numbers of sacks and other things like that. But Chop Robinson was very bendy and got to the quarterback a lot and actually had a very, very high win rate because the guy just simply like he had this bend to his game that I liked what Chop did. Even though he didn't have the numbers, the tape was like, this guy beats this guy. And while Stewart, it's like, he's a ball of clay. You can make him amazing. He's got all the traits to be this incredible player, but it's going to take some very good coaching, some very, very, very good coaching. And he could be the best out there. But We just have not seen that on tape. That's why the comp that I gave him is Jadeveon Clowney, just because he's a very, very good athletic player. I think that he has upside also in the run game. Like, to be honest, I've been kind of saying like that he doesn't use his hands. In the run game, though, I do think that he's got a lot of upside. The PFF grade reflects that with the 88.2, but with his size, with his length, he does do a very good job at sealing off the edge. So now I want to see what people have to say. So people saying out there, lots of pieces saying, yeah, looking good in shorts doesn't mean anything in the NFL. Yeah. And underwear Olympics, yeah, means nothing. Have you seen him get sacks? Exactly. So yeah, lots and lots of stuff. Respectfully disagree. The more defensive line. I like the idea of at least having defensive line for sure. But Shamar Stewart, yeah, because this is where I think also the big reason why, because, I just said this at the very beginning of the show, how to me, I struggle with who should go at 10. And I think a big reason is because all the top defensive ends are players that don't necessarily fit the profile that I like, right? This is my personal bias because just like with anything with the draft, we all have our own biases on who to draft. And that's why, hey, we have 31% of you saying A. We have 31% of you saying B. And we have 31% of you saying D, right? That's the beauty of the NFL draft is we all have different types of players that we like. And quite frankly, half of us are going to be wrong anyways because half of them burn out, right? But truly, my favorite defensive ends are like a Mike Green, James Pierce, right? Where they're not necessarily, I don't think, worthy of the top 10 of a 10th pick. And like I said, there's character concerns with those guys. But anyways, like I said, a lot of you, yeah, majority of it is an A for the Shamar Stewart pick. So that was good. I was glad that we were able to kind of see some of that. And like I've said too, I also like the second round for some defensive ends. So let's get into our first second round pick where we have the Bears obviously going defensive end with Shamar Stewart first. And then what we're going to be doing with the first second round pick, the Bears select Josh Conerly Jr. I did this on purpose because I just wanted us to talk a little bit about those second round tackles. So I wanted to kind of get both tackles out there, see how we think differently about Ursery versus Conerly. Because I'm curious, if for those out in the chat, who would you rather have the Bears take? If they were to take a tackle in the second round, would you rather have them take Conerly or would you rather have them take Ursery? And also I realized I misspelt the word junior, but anyways, Josh Conerly, Oregon Duck, 6'5", 311. And this is just another true left tackle. When you look at his grades, he's the 49th highest graded tackle last year for a PFF grade. But really, this guy is a pass protector. This guy mirrors you like crazy. He's got great feet. And yet again, 311, that's not super lightweight or super lightweight. But this is just someone that can move. He's got very good quickness. And to me, this is a zone blocker. And what I also love about him too is he's not afraid of that contact in the running game. So as soon as he sees someone, he's going to start accelerating to try and lay the lumber on that guy. 2-year starter with the Oregon Ducks and done pretty darn well, right? Nothing that has been absolutely incredible, but when you look at these second round tackles, a lot of these are projections. But what I've really liked about Ursery and Conerly is I do feel like both of them have a little bit more upside as players than some of the typical Wanya Morrises of the world that go in that second round range that are just truly more projects. And also too, yes, Josh Conerly Jr. was the guy that got lit up by Mike Green in the Senior Bowl practice, but people that were there, they said, yes, Josh Conerly got absolutely lit up and got demolished, but everyone else was saying, but he beat everybody else. And he did very, very well. It's just that was an absolute vicious bull rush that went viral, and people then were like, oh, really? Do we want this guy? But yeah, so Josh Conerly going in the second round. Like we said, this is the concept of saying, hey, maybe we should get one of these one of these tackles to just kind of add a little bit of depth. He's also the consensus 35th overall player. And the reason why he might even drop, I either think he's going to go in the first round, but if not, I think he could be right there for the Bears, because usually in the first 5-6 picks, you see a lot of those holdovers from that first round. Another piece too so what's negative about him? to me, it's a lot of the play strength. He's that agile tackle, but I don't see a lot of that, like that true hold your own, especially in the run. I think that he can benefit to just get bigger, just get stronger, and other things like that. So good frame on him, very good frame on him, can mirror very well in pass pro. But yeah, some improvements that can be made in the run. So what are we thinking out there? We got 36% saying A, 45% saying B, and 18% saying D. Illinois Jones saying no Braxton 2.0. That was actually Karan. So yeah, this would be 3 in a row. But let's see what we got out there. Yeah, let's see. So cool. That's everyone's thoughts on Josh Connolly. I will close this out and we'll just go into the second round pick. So let me just type this out. So we went with defensive end. We went with offensive tackle. And then we're going to go a similar route. Actually, different route. I forgot that this was the second pick. I wanted to see people's reactions to this one as well, because I see this more and more in a lot of Chicago Bears mock drafts that I see out on Twitter. And that is the Bears going safety, Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, redshirt senior, 6 foot, 203. So, safety. The reason why I see people going safety is because the concept of drafting a year ahead. You have Byard, you have Jaquan Brisker, all with the year left on their contract. So, do you go after a safety? And this is where another one, I want to see what people are thinking. Illinois Jones is saying worst draft possible. So, that's why I'm really kind of curious what y'all think about this, because I wanted to see what are people's thoughts about them drafting a safety in the second, because I haven't done that in any of my mocks. I haven't even done that like when I just, sitting playing, phone GM and just kind of doing some mock drafts, but also a little bit about him. 67 tackles, 6 interceptions, 89.5 coverage grade. And to me, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Troy Polamalu to his game, where he's not necessarily that ball hawk like an Ed Reed or Eddie Jackson in 2018, where he's this sideline to sideline, just kind of glides out there and just kind of gets to the ball. He reminds me of Polamalu, where Polamalu moved faster than what it looked like. And yeah, he even had the hair, but when you just simply looked at his movement speed, it looked a little bit slower sometimes. And that was something that kind of threw me off a little bit with his game, was sometimes he looks a little bit slower, but he's still able to get there and he shows pop some other times. He's a very aggressive ball hawk. Like, he's an aggressive playmaker that I do like. I do really like his tape. I like what he looks like, and I just like him at the safety position. But my biggest question is, do we want a safety with the second pick? I see Muck loving this pick. Like, I think my biggest question is just the safety at second. Is that okay? Because when you look at who we have at safety, we have Jaquan Brisker, we have Jonathan Owens, we have Elijah Hicks, we have Tarvarius Moore as backups, none of which should be our long-term answer at the safety position. So do we feel confident enough going with the safety? And the bad part about this is we probably wouldn't really see him that much, right? Or we shouldn't really see him out that much because of just who we have. And the only time that we'd probably see him is if someone went down in the safety position. So that's what I feel. That's why I wanted to kind of point that out there of what do we feel? Because my personal take on this is I love the player, but part of me goes, is there someone we can get with a day 3 pick? Someone that we can kind of bring in and say, hey, can we get something out of one of these players to do something? Obviously, you want all your day 3 picks to be absolute bona fide studs. I haven't dove in deep into like the day 3 safety picks, but I will be doing that throughout this draft process. And that's why I'm really intrigued by this. It's a good pick, in my opinion. For need, maybe not so much, but I like the player. And also, it seems like y'all like it too, because 33% saying A, 42% saying B, 25% saying C. Probably the only player that we haven't seen a D vote at all. So that's what we're feeling with this. And yeah, Eric's saying we do need safety. Yeah, I think good point with just Brisker's health. I think that's also probably the biggest question. If they don't feel confident in Brisker being out there, or if they feel like they need someone, are they fine with Jonathan Owens coming in and playing out there? Or do they say, hey, let's get an Xavier Watts. This is going to be the long-term solution at the safety position. So with this, I think it'd be solid. And Broski's saying too, Brisker one hit away from retirement. Yeah, sad to say that, but yeah, he really is. Makes sense drafting a safety. So yeah, wanted to see that. And I'm actually really surprised. That there's no Ds out there for it. So this is why we do the drill. This is why we do it. So now let's get into the last one where, yet again, I purposely chose people that I'm like, this is why I love being live. This is why I love having y'all out here live watching the show, talking about these picks, because there's another. So the last pick that we're going to go through, and then we're going to be voting on which one was our favorite. Last pick for this draft, Bears going running back, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, 6 foot, 225. Big boy at the running back position. What do you all think about this? So right now he's the consensus 60th running back overall, RB5 on the consensus big board. What are people thinking? So Caleb Johnson, this is what I'll tell you about it while y'all start getting in your votes, getting in what you think. Caleb Johnson is dropping down boards because people were saying this is a first round running back. This is someone that we cannot get. Or maybe we can start getting him in the second round. Because this was like, his trajectory was skyrocketing up because people got to his tape and they said, this guy's good. And then all of a sudden they're like, this guy's slow after the combine. Because I actually was listening to other people talk about Caleb Johnson before the combine. And people were saying, oh, he's going to run faster than people give him credit for. He's going to run faster. And I said this on the show, like I didn't expect him to run very fast. And he didn't run very fast because the tape never showed that. He always got ran down. He got ran down a lot of times. The only time he didn't was when he had a lot of space in front of him. But that's why he kind of reminds me a little bit of Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard plus a receiving game. I've seen some Tyler Algier comps out there as well with him too, where he's just this big running back. Like we said, 6 foot, 225, 1,535 rushing yards last season, 6.4 yards a carry, 21 touchdowns, and yeah, only 190 receiving yards, but I just saw the upside with him as an actual receiver. You know, even though that he had just a very, very simple route tree, I still liked it. And to me, he strikes me as an every down back and someone that if you want a Roschon Johnson plus, I feel Caleb Johnson gives you that. He's the bruiser, could be a very, very good complement to a DeAndre Swift. And this is a guy that just simply, he finds the hole, runs through hole. He's a running back after my own heart because that's how I like my defensive ends to get sacks and production. And I like my running backs to just see hole, run through hole. So that's where I really like Caleb Johnson and look for him to be somebody that does in fact slide down if people are really scared away with combine numbers. That's my favorite part of combine numbers is when they scare people away or they make people overdraft someone. That's the good stuff because really combine numbers should just be to validate scores or, you know, when it comes down to offensive linemen, I still feel like those measurements are in fact important to say, are you big enough to play the position? So Caleb Johnson, like I said, to me, just a high floor player, just this simple guy that can just be that Jordan Howard of a player where Jordan Howard, after a while, eventually like the wheels came off and people weren't able to use him too much, but he's just a powerful guy. Caleb Johnson, powerful, breaks tackle, 131 elusive rating. Well, let's see what y'all are thinking. So let's see, 50% saying A, 29% saying B, and 21% saying D. So smoke screens out there. Illinois Jones saying he won't be out there. Broski saying Caleb Johnson runs like he has a piano on his back, just like Monty did. We need some speed and playmaker at running back. Eric saying rather Ian Wheeler than this dude. And in peril saying Omarion Hampton will be the best back in the draft. Bold takes out there. So yeah, this one, now we're up to 50% with A's. So Caleb Johnson rounding it out with the Bears going with running backs. So that wraps up what we had for this dueling mock draft. So let's go over to what is your favorite mock draft? So let me kind of open this up and let's go into let me start I have to end the poll first. Come on now, end the poll. And let's go with start a poll. What is your favorite mock draft? Let's go with 1 or 2. I think last time we had A or B. We'll do 1 or 2. And just in case if there's any questions, let me just load this up. 1 or 2. Ladies and gentlemen, 1 is on your left and 2 is on your right. If you're curious, this is 1 that I'm moving right now, and 2 is the one that's right over here. So I'm curious to see what y'all think, because wrapping it up, we had so our first mock draft, for those that are listening on the podcast, Ashton Jeanty. So we get the best running back in the draft. We go with Nick Scorton, the edge out of Texas A&M, and then we followed up with Ariante Ursary to get some offensive tackle depth, with Harold Fannin as the tight end at pick 72. And also, I want to clarify this as well. Thank you all so much for the feedback. I ended up not going with I ended up going through and truly doing a mock draft and just actually grabbing those players at those positions, just so that we at least have the actual spots that we chose them rather than their consensus grades right next to them, because that caused some confusion. So thank you all so much for that feedback. So the graphics a little bit better, and you get to see what the NFL database thought of the drafts as well. Then mock draft number 2, we went with Shamar Stewart, the toolsy pass rusher, the athletic pass rusher, or athletic defensive end out of Texas A&M. Then following up with Josh Conley Jr. out of Oregon, and Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa, then rounded it out. So really very similar drafts, but I wanted to purposely kind of have that a little bit. So both addressing offensive tackle, both addressing edge, both addressing running back, and one with safety, one with tight end. So I'm seeing Taco Man saying 2, Bears Bones saying 2, but right now, 1 is in the lead, 64%. I'm actually this is actually a bigger disparity than what we had last time that we did this. Roshi's saying he liked the 2nd and 3rd picks in draft 1 better. That's what did it for him. So yeah, so let's go through this, and I'll keep this up, but I'll give my opinion on this, because the first draft that we did, I actually like the first one better. And I'm talking about the last one, not this one exactly. The one with Tyler Warren, I didn't break this down, but I actually like the one with Tyler Warren a little bit better, just because I like what Tyler Warren has to offer. I really like him as a tight end prospect, and I think it's going to be fun having just these 2 tight ends out there. So as a fan, I also like it as well. But let's go into this one, where to me, when I look at this, I like Caleb Johnson in the 3rd, right? If he's able to drop that, that's awesome. If he's able to keep on dropping, perfect. But to me, I do like the first draft, because I like the Bears getting Jeanty. I like Nick Scourton dropping, and Ursary if you're able to get him, or if they want to go with the tackle. And if the Bears drafted Ursary, then they're saying hey, we need another tackle here. Then, so I don't mind that, but I do really like Harold Fannin. I like Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green, and I think that this would be fun. I think it would insert a lot of life into the Bears. We got Jeanty and we got Fannin. We got the best, the crazy productive tight end and the crazy productive running back, albeit from smaller schools, but still kind of gives you that excitement. And I do think that's Nick Scorton. He's good. I don't think that he's going to be the greatest defensive end of all time, but I do think that he could develop into a quality starter in the NFL. And I really do think that he just got that great upside. So to me, I'm going with 1, and y'all, 67% saying number 1. So that's what they're talking about that. So number 1 going on through Ashton Jeanty. So right now we have, I'm still not going to give away who won yesterday. So if you haven't seen that show, make sure to go and watch that. Make sure to go to listen to that, because it's fun. But like I said, let's keep doing this. I want to do this as March Madness, because when March Madness comes, I'm going to be watching the games. I know y'all are going to be watching the games. So let's do this tomorrow around 8 o'clock, same time. I hope to see you there. So make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because, hey, this is supposed to be live at 8:15, but thank you all so much for hanging out with me because I had to push this back because I realized I didn't do some draft profiles on some of these. So I frantically got those together to get y'all those graphics. So I appreciate y'all so much. See you tomorrow. Unbearable Sports Podcast. We are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bride.